Hey, welcome back. My name's Justin. This is not the YouTube channel 65 Drums. This is my side channel where I talk about YouTube and whatever else I feel like covering. So today I'm going to show you how to take a boring photo like this, where it doesn't look good as a thumbnail, even if you put a logo and stuff on it. Take a boring image like this and then make it pop and make it into an actual good thumbnail. Now, to make this happen, the most important thing to know is that your image has a lot of potential that you're probably not tapping into. A lot of people, what they do is they take a photo on a phone like I did. They would try to do the simple stuff, like let's just increase the brightness. The drum set's too dark, so I'll increase the drum set brightness so it actually looks better. But oh look, I'm also bringing up the brightness of the background. So now the drum set looks better, but the background looks trash. So the key here is that before you do anything, the very first thing you need to do when you know you're dealing with a challenging image like this, you have to carefully cut out the background from the image. To show you what I'm talking about, here's a quick tutorial. What I'm gonna do is you create a mask. You press this button, now you have a mask, get your brush, and now you just need to cut it out. You're gonna wanna do this very carefully, but here's a really quick way to do it. So you can either drag like that, or if you got a straight line, click once, and then go to the end point, hold shift, and now you have a straight line. Now that you've cut it out once, go to your mask that you cut out. So select that, then go to channel, then to mask alpha, right click, and then create spare channel. Now, whenever I do anything that is unrelated to the baseline image, I can copy and paste that adjustment on it. I wanna make this module more red. Create a vibrance layer that is not paired to anything. It's over here by itself. And I'm gonna boost the saturation of that, okay? But I don't want the background to be saturated. So what I can do is, now that I just have this selected, go back to channel, you have to right click and then load. Once you press load, now it only affects that. And the cool thing is you can invert this selection. So let's say, in fact, I wanted to keep the module the way it was, but I wanted to desaturate everything else. Select the mask by clicking on it, go over here to layer, then press invert. Now I go back here and I can desaturate the background. Look at that. So this is a really simple technique, and I'm sorry if you already knew how to do this, but now let's talk about how I created this image, knowing that sort of baseline information. First layer is gonna be my logo. Second layer is my rectangle, my border that goes around. Then I create a mask on that border, get my brush, and I cut out the legs of the drum set so it has a 3D pop out from the border itself, because otherwise it would look like that. Next up, I've got my drum shell color. Here's what it looks like without it. This drum set is an LED drum set, but you wouldn't know that by looking at the baseline image. So here's the original image. You wouldn't know that you can have every drum be a different color. To illustrate how cool this drum set can be, I went and I created a bunch of little layers, these individual recolor adjustments. So I can adjust the color of just the snare, just the toms, all independently. And then I group them together so they're in this little box. The next thing is the drum master look. Here's what's really important. No matter how I brighten and contrast everything, there's a blue color cast everything, which is fine, but it makes it blend into the background. I want it to stand out. So what I simply did was I made the drum set black and white. Look at this. It's a black and white drum set, except for the drum shells. Next thing is basically my highlights and shadows, making it less contrasty, but then pumping the brights and lowering the shadows. So it just stands out more. Now in the original image, obviously the drum rack isn't that sort of like chromish looking, but you know what, for a thumbnail, I'm gonna do it. Now we gotta move and talk about the background. So here's my two background layers. The first is a master color adjustment. This is called color balance inside of Affinity Photo. You select this to create an effect. What I did was in the shadows, I brought up the reds, and then I brought up the magentas and the yellows. In the midtones, I brought up the blues, and then in the highlights, I brought up the yellows. So here's what it used to look like. Here's what it looks like when I make those color adjustments. So it used to be like, it's too much, and now I bring in some color on the edges, and I just, soften everything. The reason why it looks like that in the first place is because of this brightness adjustment. It's a chicken or the egg situation. The last thing you're probably going to want to do is sharpen the image. And here's how to do that. So under this photo group, I've got this photo master and I want to sharpen it. So what I do is I press Control C and then Control V. Now I've got two photos, one on top of each other. And so I select the top one, go to filters, sharpen, then unsharpen mask. Inside of this, you can adjust the radius of the sharpen effect. If you go too high, you create these halos around everything, so don't go too high. But you go like that, and you can adjust basically the factor of it, which is how sharpened it is. So I'm gonna go too high, around right there. And then threshold is where it's actually applied. So I usually have the threshold down super low. Now I press apply to actually make it take effect. At this point, you're thinking, this is way too sharpened, and you're right. The way to actually make this blend in is go to opacity, And now I can adjust how much of that sharpened is sort of bleeding through to the baseline. Now, obviously you don't have to do this sort of strategy where you have the opacity going down. You can actually just make the sharpening less evident in the base layer, but that's what I feel like doing. By the way, I would always make a copy of your base image and never touch it. In fact, I would just make it unavailable to even see. That way you can't accidentally mess up your baseline image. It'll always be there in the background. Another cool thing is you can right click on it, and I think there's like a lock icon. Yeah, right there. So you can't even mess it up by accident. Just keep that in the background, and if you need it, then you can always grab it. So quick summary, basically you need to start with an image, you need to cut out the foreground from the background, then you need to save that as a mask, and then as you make your contrast, your brightness, and your color adjustments, you can paste on that mask so that you're only affecting the drum set from the background or whatever your video is actually about. So that's the basic thing, masking. If you figure out masking and then figure out how to apply that to different effects, you can take an image like this that you can't seem to save and really make it pop and look something cool like this. That's my video. Hope you guys enjoyed. And again, this is my side channel. This is not 65 Drums itself. This is just where I talk about YouTube and things that I'm interested in. Hope you guys enjoyed. See you in the next one.